Today we're talking all about the Norse goddess of love, beauty, sex, war, and death. That's right, it's Freya.
Enter a world of enchantment, of enlightenment, Meg's magical mansion.
Come, whoever you are, to Meg's Magical Mansion, a virtual guest house for spiritual wayfarers, a place where the ordinary becomes magical, where wisdom is yours for the asking, and where your higher nature is just a wish away. Thanks for joining us here today at the Magical Mansion. I'm Meg with my scrumptious parlor maid, Parfait.
Oh, charmed.
And here in my lap is my beautiful assistant, Miss Alice Pooper. So Parfait, we have another exciting episode today in our Power Goddess series.
Ooh, tell me about it.
It's the goddess Freya.
Ooh, the Norse goddess of beauty and sexuality.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah, her. You know, I often get mistaken for her.
I bet you do. So today we'll be talking all about her. We'll be learning about her histories and different ways you can celebrate her and incorporate her into your witchcraft or magic.
I love it.
So stick around. We're going to learn a lot about the goddess of beauty and sexuality and a whole lot more. The goddess Freya. Freya, the Norse goddess of love, sex, beauty, fertility, magic, war, and death. She was the most beautiful and desirable goddess of the Norse pantheon. And as someone who has a lot of Scandinavian ancestry in me, I am very excited about Freya, and I really identify with a lot of the Norse mythology. So Freya is the goddess of sex and lust, beauty. She is somewhat the Norse akin to Aphrodite in Greek mythology. She is a fierce warrior. She is known to be the leader of the Valkyries. And the name Freya means lady or woman. So her name is almost more of a title. During Viking times, any woman of means who owned property or was of some sort of high stature would be referred to as Freya. And you might see a connection there to the German word Frau for lady. Freya was traditionally honored and celebrated on Fridays, which is also where we get the word Friday from. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Norse mythology, the Norse pantheon is divided into two main groups, the Aesir and the Vanir. And the Aesir side was the warrior, fierce fighting side, and the Vanir side was a side of magic and fertility. Now, Freya was a member of the Vanir, and she was an adept at satyr magic, which is a ceremonial divination practice very useful in foretelling the future. And those adept in satyr magic can also remove curses and cast powerful protection spells. Freya's father was Njord, the Norse god of wind and water. Her mother is pretty much unknown, but Freya has a twin brother named Freyr, and Freya and Freyr are often pictured together. And Freyr is the Norse god of fertility, peace, and harvest. Freya was a Vanir goddess, but she and her brother Freyr came to live amongst the Aesir as part of a deal, a truce. After a prolonged battle that pitted the magic of the Vanir against the brute force of the Aesir, a stalemate could not be resolved. So finally, as a part of a truce, Njord, the god of the wind and water, and his children, Freya and Freyr, would move to Asgard and be adopted into the Aesir. And who would not be happy to be joined by the most beautiful goddess you could imagine, Freya, the goddess of beauty, love, sex, desirability, lust, but also powerful. War, death. Some say her power was equal to Odin himself. Freya is famous for riding in a chariot drawn by cats. She wears a magical feather cloak, which gives her the power of flight. And she has a boar named Hildisvani, which means battle swine, who accompanies her. Some say that boar is the human Utar. Freya wears a golden necklace, the Brisingamen, and they say this kept her youthful and beautiful. This necklace was made of gold and it was decorated with precious gems. The necklace had been constructed by 4 dwarfs, and when Freya saw it, she knew she had to have it. She offered the dwarfs many things, riches and gold. They would not part with the necklace, except for one thing. If she would spend the night with each one of them in turn, then they would give it to her. Well, all I could say is, kids, she's wearing the necklace. And Freya never seemed to have super strict or tight morals, although she was married to Odar, who is a sort of mysterious god that we don't seem to know much about. And at one point he just goes off and disappears. He kind of ghosts her and leaves poor Freya crying, and her tears just turn to gold, like little golden tears. She cries. But there's a lot of conversation about the connection between Odin and Odar and Odin's wife Frigg and Freya. The fact that Freya means lady means some people think maybe it's Lady Frigg, and that Frigg and Freya are one and the same, and Odar and Odin are one in the same, although that is still up for conjecture. But I'll tell you one group that was super duper hot for Freya. They were really into her and lusted after her were the Jotuns, or the giants. The giant Premier, this is my favorite story. He steals Thor's hammer and holds it hostage and will accept no other ransom other than the hand of Freya in marriage. Now, to their credit, the other gods and goddesses in the Norse pantheon do not want to throw Freya under the bus, as it were. They don't want to give her up to this giant. So Thor dresses himself up as Bride Freya and presents himself to the giant, grabs his hammer, and of course, you know what he does with it. Deals that giant a fatal mortal blow. But I think one of the most fascinating jobs that Freya had was that she was believed to be the leader of the Valkyries. And the Valkyries were goddesses who would decide the fates of warriors in battle, and then they would swoop down over the battlefield collecting the souls of the fallen warriors. Now, there's always a lot of talk about the fallen warriors going to Valhalla, but Freya and her Valkyries got first dibs on the fallen warriors and would collect half, and Odin got the other half to take to Valhalla, while Freya took her half to Folkvanger. And please remember that in Norse tradition, how you die, the manner of your death, decides your place in the afterlife. Dying bravely in battle meant you would get a place in either Folkvanger or Valhalla. And many say that it was Freya who taught Odin magic, being an adept at the satyr magic, which she taught him. So, Freya is a goddess of beauty, love, sex, fertility, war, and death. You see why she is one of the most revered goddesses in the Norse pantheon. If you wish to make offerings to Freya, you might want to try something like jewelry, because we know she likes that, or perfume, honey, or mead, working with gems like moonstones, rose quartz, amber, citrine, or colors such as black, silver, white, also red and green, since she has connections to cats, boars, and falcons. Using any imagery or statues or figurines of those animals might also be appropriate. Invoking love spells certainly can't hurt to add the power of Freya to that kind of magic. Anything that involves love, lust, or sexuality tapping into those things within yourself or drawing it into your life, calling upon the power of Freya is a very good way to use her power. And some plants or flowers associated with Freya would be cowslip to preserve youth and beauty. Primrose is useful for attracting love and lust. And the daisy is a protection charm in battle. But nowadays, a lot of women and members of the LGBTQIA+ community are using the daisy for a symbolic representation of protection from Freya. Also, the lily of the valley, the snowdrop, strawberries, and if it's legal where you live, cannabis, which was sacred to all the Vanir, and columbine flowers. And that's just a little bit about Freya, the goddess of love, lust, beauty, war, and death. And now, a verse from the Song of Grimnir, translated in 1797 by Amos Simon Cottle. Falkwagnar's towers claim my song, these to Freya's right belong. Who chief presiding at each feast, appoints his place to every guest. Half of the slain by her possessed, but Odin daily claims the rest.
I hope you enjoyed learning about Freya. I had no idea why she was always trying to get away from all those big giants. Gosh knows if I had something that big chasing me, I wouldn't try to get away. Anyway, in the words of Buddha, 1,000 candles can be lit from a single candle, and the life of a candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. So thank you for sharing your time and attention with us here at Meg's Magical Mansion. Until next time, toodles. I don't know why she was always trying to get away from all those big giants. Gosh knows I would just try to. I don't know why she was always trying to get away from all those big giants. Gosh knows, whenever I run into something giant, I'm always happy.